All right, looks like I'm live here. Let's make sure everything is all set up. And then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, welcome to the live event where we are talking all about finding a flow for the administrative side of your business. My name is Emily Retamozo. I am the creator of Sift mobile app. And I am also a cookie artist. I started making cookies, and really this app was born out of my frustration that I felt trying to balance my full-time job with my cookie business. So we're gonna dive into that a bit. So let's take a look. I'll give you a background on the app and then kind of give you some strategies and different ways that you can implement boundaries, figure out a good way to communicate with your customers so that you're not missing any details, and then also set up some automation. So we'll do that with Sift, and if you're not an app person, I'm also going to, at the end, show you my favorite planner if you're more of a pen and paper type person. So let's jump in. And here we go. Okay, so Sift, find your flow with me, Emily. Okay, so are you ready to rework your cookie business? We know that you've got the cookie making and decorating stuff down, but the whole admin side can be kind of tricky. Sometimes I find that is honestly the hardest part and takes a ton of time, and we don't always remember to factor that into our cookie pricing. So we want to make sure that we can streamline that and make that part as simple as possible. So a little bit about me. I mentioned a little bit when we got started. I'm Emily. I was a teacher, still am a teacher in some other ways. I'll explain that in a minute. A cookier and a mobile app creator. I'm a firm believer that a one-woman show does not mean we should accept being burnt out all the time as just part of the job. I think so often we just kind of chalk it up to it is what it is, this is how it is, but we really don't have to let it be that way. We can implement changes to make it so that we have a little bit of a work-life balance. Okay, so some background. In 2019, I started on a whim kind of a cookie Instagram. I just made cookies totally for fun and started posting them on Instagram. That was called A Cookie for Each Hand. So if you have been around a while, then maybe you remember that account. And then in 2021, so post-COVID, like I said, I was a teacher. I taught high school physics. We had just transitioned back to school, and we were doing the whole hybrid learning at school, and I was pretty miserable. And I was sitting in a study hall one day trying to answer cookie emails, and I just was annoyed that I couldn't figure out a good way to answer emails, have my orders, and just keep track of all of the details. And that in that study hall is where I came up with the idea for an app that would do it all for me. So that was 2021, and then in 2022, Sift became official. I did a whole little business rebrand, so no longer was I a cookie for each hand. I just transitioned it under my name to Emily Retamozo, and I ended up leaving my teaching job, and I kind of transitioned my teaching job into teaching cookie stuff. So now I teach cookie classes online, which is ironic because I hated teaching high school physics online during COVID, but all of the skills that I learned from that I now use to teach cookie classes. So just a little bit about my dream. I really wanted to figure out how to make my creative side hustle a sustainable business. That dream right there really came from being so miserable teaching COVID online school. And yeah, I wanted to be able to have the freedom to travel and one day be a stay-at-home mom. So here we go. A little bit of vision. So vision for Sift was really a straightforward, simple, easy to use app that streamlines and simplifies the administrative side of a creative side hustle, a hobby, a business, whatever you want to call it. I really want to alleviate that stress and burden that comes along with people being a one-woman show to provide a tool. When I was looking for different ways that I could organize my orders and keep track of all of the communication, orders, scheduling, and all that stuff, I really couldn't find anything that I felt fit my needs. I felt like the different tools and resources were either super, super basic and really didn't do enough for me, or really, really in-depth, but then were overwhelming, had a million features, and also were pretty pricey. And I just didn't feel like I was at a point where I wanted to spend a lot of money monthly so that I could use only a few of the features. So I was kind of at this in-between where I didn't really want to spend a lot of money for stuff I wasn't going to use, but also I needed more than just a simple Google form. So that's kind of where the idea came from. I really wanted to target this app and create an app for those of us that are in between maybe a little bit more than just a hobby that we do once in a while, but not quite like a full-fledged, full-time small business that we're, maybe paying all the bills with. So find your flow, the meaning behind the slogan. The flow that we're talking about is a seamless workflow. That's the flow. So what we want to do is keep you organized. We want to help you set boundaries. We want to prevent burnout, build confidence in your work, and also create trust with your customers. So we want organization and professionalism. That's kind of the goal of Sift. So here is how I would break down creating a seamless workflow. There's kind of 3 sections that I've broken it down to. So what we want to do is put in place sustainable systems and processes for your business. So we want to make things simple with Sift. First thing, we're going to make rules. And yes, we have to stick to our own rules. These are rules for ourselves that we're going to stick to, and also rules that we need our customers to follow. So you also, if you're going to stick to your own rules, you need them to adhere to those rules as well. So we're going to create a communication plan and kind of streamline that, make sure it's the same for every customer so that they have a consistent customer experience, and then also set automations, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be spending forever and ever and ever emailing back and forth. So automations are going to save us time in that sense. So start with your rules. Now, these are just some that I came up with. And these are for you as much as they are for your customers. So order limits. When are you available? How much can you take on each week, each month? This is something that you need to think about on your own. Think about your schedule. Think about, how many hours you have in the day. I always suggest literally find somewhere to write that down so that you physically can see it and remember it and stick to it. Obviously, there's no way to really control how much you take on or off. It's all up to you. So you have to have the willpower to say no to people once you reach your limits. And everybody's limit is going to be different. Some people may be able to take 3 dozen cookies a week. Others might be super women and take on 20 dozen a week. So that is all personal preference and whatever works for you and whatever works for your lifestyle. So another good rule is how to inquire. I know we all have been there where you end up with orders in your DMs, you end up with orders on your Facebook Messenger, in your email, sometimes even over text, like just all over the place. So figuring out a way to kind of, instead of taking orders from all different places, get one place, one platform where people will order from, so that you aren't losing things and losing orders. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, but I know I have. I had this one graduation, I'll never forget it, order, and thank goodness the woman sent me a message or emailed me or something the night of and asked what time she could pick up her order for the next day, and I hadn't even had the cookies baked. So it was a long night after school. I came home, I baked, and it was a nightmare. And that was the last time I ever did that. So if you've ever been in that situation, rule number 2, how to inquire, is so, so important. This is another one. Don't make exceptions for that. Even if you have a verbal conversation with someone where they tell you kind of what they want, when they want it, I don't know, maybe you have a better memory than me, but I can't remember that. So really make sure that you then send them your whatever it is order form. I would suggest using Sift, of course, so I'll show you how that works. But if you have a different platform that you use, then make sure you're always just sending that out. Hey, fill out my form. This is how I take orders. And then lastly, communication. Same thing, we're limiting it to one platform because it is so easy to lose details. And when people go and change things, like instead of 5,000 cookies, maybe they only want 3. If that message was done in an email, but then they told you all the rest of their order details in like your DMs, you're gonna miss something somewhere. It's only a matter of time. So if you can bring all of that communication and keep your entire conversation with a customer in one place, in one thread, then you are gonna keep yourself organized, and you'll also have the peace of mind that you're not missing something. Okay, so limits. These are some highlights of the Sift features and how you're kind of able to achieve these rules with the features that we have in place with Sift. So your limits, we can use the calendar feature to give yourself days off each month where people can't submit an order. You can also use this feature to control how far out you take orders. I use this particular feature in kind of a unique way. I personally will close all of the months down, and then I will, as each month comes up, I'll open one month at a time so that people can order, because I don't like to take orders super far in advance. Now that works for me. You could also do it the opposite way. Maybe you know you're on a vacation for a week in May, so you can put in your start date of your vacation and your end date of your vacation, and when you set that date in Sift, that will automatically set block off the dates in the calendar that your customers would see when they go to order from you from your form that you also create in the app. So that is one way we can set limits. How to inquire. In Sift, you have the ability to create your custom form for your clients to fill out so that you know exactly what they're looking for. You could ask as few or as many questions as you need. I always recommend adding more questions rather than less, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't take customers that long to fill the forms out. And if they give you all of that information up front, it saves both of you the time that you would spend going back and forth through email to get all of those order details, like how many do you want, what theme, what names, what dates, all of that good stuff. So the form that you can create in Sift, you can just add a bunch of different questions to it. You could add multiple choice. You could add photo examples for each of your multiple choice options. I use that for packaging, for example. If I show an option for standard heat sealed bags, for bags with bows, boxes, so you can add those examples right into your order form and have your customers make those selections up front. And again, that helps you to decide if you want to take that on as a project or if you want to decline that one. But you'll have all of the information up front, which is really, really helpful. Communication. So in the app, when you get a new inquiry and when it comes through, you'll be able to see their submission, their form submission, see everything that they want, but you'll also have a little tab that allows you to communicate with your customer. The nice thing is your customers, they do not ever need to download Sift. There's no learning curve at all on their end. They simply will click a link to access your form, fill it out, and then when you send them messages from the Sift app, it will go directly to their email. So they're just going to get emails from you. They're not going to have to log into anything. They're not going to have to check the app. They won't even know that you're using the app, because to them, it will just look like you sent them an email like you normally would. So again, if you do all of your communication through Sift, then you've got their project details and your conversation with them literally in one space. And I'll show you exactly what it looks like when we get to the end of the slideshow here. Okay, this is another part of creating that seamless workflow. We want to create communication that flows. If you're able to kind of follow the same order of communication and talking points with your customer each and every time, then you're making sure that you're always on the same page with your customers. You have a process. You're not kind of questioning, well, what did I talk about with this person and that person? And you kind of can have a checklist for yourself. So an example of a communication flow would be, first of all, they get an inquiry confirmation. So some type of confirmation email that lets them know that their form has been submitted. That's like communication number one that just kind of lets them know that you are on the same page as them. Then you could send another message to them letting them know either, yes, I can take on your order, or I'm sorry, no, I can't. Another step of the communication would be able to give them next steps and a summary. So, hey, this is what I have you on my calendar for. This is how much it's going to cost. To confirm, send me the payment in this way. And these are all just examples. So details, again, if you need to ask those clarifying questions, you can coordinate that handoff. So when is the pickup? Are they being shipped out? How's that working? And then a final reminder and photos. Again, this is just an example, but if you kind of have those steps of that communication process that you're going to use for your clients, that will really help you create a really nice, streamlined customer experience for anybody who orders from you. And they'll feel like you know what you're doing. You will feel confident in yourself, and it will also come off that you are very professional and this isn't your first time doing this, which is always a good thing. That is what helps build trust with your customers. Okay, this is one of my favorite things. Automate communication. So that initial confirmation that we talked about here with that inquiry confirmation is automatically done with Sift. So if a customer fills out one of your forms, as soon as they click submit, they will get an email that is automated that lets them know, hey, your form has been submitted. I'll review it and get back to you ASAP. So this is just a really good first touch with them so that they know that, again, they will hear from you. Their inquiry has not just gotten lost into the abyss of the internet. This middle one, this decline a project. I don't know about you, but I struggle with the word no quite often. I always want to say yes to everybody. I feel bad saying no, but at the end of the day, I can't take everything on. So what we worked into Sift, and one of my favorite features is this handy little button. It's just a little X, and what you can do is you can view a new inquiry that comes up, and if you think that you can't take it on, you don't want to take it on for whatever reason, all you have to do is tap this X, and it will send off an automated email to the customer that just says, I'm so sorry, I'm not available. If you have questions, you can send me an email. Something generic like that. But again, it sends that email off. It lets them know if they really need to get in contact with you, how they can do that. And you don't feel that guilt because you're not having that back and forth. You're not manually typing out I'm so sorry, like excuses for why you can't take it on. It's just a very professional, so sorry, can't take it on. And that's that. You get that communication out to them. There is in the app a kind of generic one that we have put in there, but you can customize that so that it fits for your business and sounds like you too. And then the last is you can build templates. This is one of the pro features that Sift offers, but different templates would be like a quote, a pickup, a payment. So I have used this so often, but you can save those email templates so that way, you don't have to type out those repetitive emails over and over again. You kind of have a skeleton for what you want to say, and then you just fill in the specifics for each customer and you can send them off. So it really, really cuts back on the amount of time you spend typing out those emails and that kind of thing. So setting up your automations in Sift, this is going to be in your settings, but here are some of the examples. So you can customize your automated emails and your preferences, and you can send out that automated email by swiping an inquiry to the left and tapping the X. So here is that example that I was telling you about. This would be kind of what an inquiry looks like. You just swipe it over and you get these 3 buttons. You can tap that X and that automatically sends the email to your customer letting them know that you are not available. So again, it takes the pain out of saying no. It makes it a whole lot easier. Okay. We've gone through the gist of everything, but let's take a look at the actual app. I want to show you what it looks like. So let me swap over here. Okay. So when you open up Sift, you will have a whole lot of nothing in your app because you won't have created anything. So the very first thing that you'll see in your app is a blank screen here, and if you jump over all the way to the left, another blank screen, but you would have to then create your custom form. I'm not gonna really go into detail about how to create the custom form because we do have video tutorials that will step you through everything really nicely, but I do kind of want to just give you a general idea of what the app looks like, what it does, and how it works. So this is where you would create your forms, and this is what the forms look like in the app. So you can see here I have all the good questions. So name, email, when is it due, contact number, what flavor cookies. You could add all kinds of different questions to the form. If you need to add information like ordering information, pricing, anything like that, you can add into the description here to add more questions. You just would tap that pink plus, and then you get a list of different formats of questions that you could choose from. So these are all customizable. The only three that you can't get rid of and that the app has to have is the name, the email, and it will show up as due date, but if you just tap on it, you can change the text. So you could always change what it says, but you can't get rid of that question. So that is a quick look at what the form is like. Now you have a bunch of these other buttons right underneath. This open button is convenient because it will take you directly to the web version of your form. So this is what your customers would see. They see your form and then can fill that out. So that just kind of gives you a preview. Another thing that is really convenient is this copy URL. That is going to be your BFF, your copy URL button, because when you get those DMs of somebody saying, hey, I want to order cookies for next month, you can say, okay, great. And then you jump into your Sift app, you tap that copy URL, and then you just go right back to your DM and send it directly to them and say, fill this form out, and then I'll get back to you. I really try to never give a yes or no answer to somebody that tries to order through DMs or email. I just send them the link and say, as soon as I have that form filled out from you, then I will get back to you. So that's what the form looks like. Let me show you from the customer's standpoint here. Just an example, another thing that you can do with that URL, you don't have to send it directly to people. You could post this on your social media. So you could post this in your Facebook page. You could post it in your Instagram bio. You could post it really anywhere that you wanted. So for example, I have one here. If I look at my Instagram links, I have this order form. So what your customers would do is just check your bio, they get the link, and then they could just fill it right out. So let me submit a sample for you. Oops. We'll just type random things. And as the customer could also upload a inspiration photo. So we just submitted a sample inquiry, and I'll show you what that looks like in your Sift app. Now you can see that I have a new inquiry that popped up right there, and I can open that up, and now I can see all of the requests and all of the answers to the questions that I put in my form. Now, as the customer, what I would see is that automated thank you email. So I can see that my form has been submitted, and if I need anything, I can send an email here. So that's from the customer's view, what I'm seeing. Now, again, remember I said you can send all of your communication through the app, and you can see all of their order details. And so this conversation tab is where we would then create a cookies for April. You can send a message. Hi, your total is $100. Send me payment this week. And then you can send that off. So you see the message in your app like this, but the customer sees the message come through directly to their inbox. And when they reply, you get that message right back to your app. Sometimes it takes a minute, so we'll see if it pops up. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that to load in, you can also take note of when people have paid or not through just this invoice checklist. These are just kind of a mental note. The customer doesn't see these. This is just for you to kind of take note about that. One other thing, you have this mark as accepted, so you can see that this inquiry still says new here. If I tap this mark as accepted, then you can see that that will change the status of my inquiry from the blue tab to the gray tab, and now it says accepted, and you see the pink dot. That means I have a new message, and there you go. It popped right up. Now I do want to talk about that decline order. Let's see. I'm going to actually go in and I'm going to unmark this one. So it's going to go back to, actually, let's just fill out a new inquiry. We'll say this is for Maddie. Just fill out the sample here. Okay, now let's say I don't want to take on Maddie's order. I see Maddie's order come in and I'm not feeling it. I look through it and I say, no, I don't want to take on this order. Here is the beauty of that automated decline. All I have to do is swipe this inquiry over. I can tap that X and then right away it goes away from my list. And if I check that email, you'll see that I have another decline order. Now my internet is being slow. But anyway, that decline will pop up. It already did pop up. I missed it. Hi, Maddie. Thank you so much for reaching out. Unfortunately, I'm unable to take on your order for the date you requested. So you can see that that automatically popped up and let my customer, Maddie, know that I was not available. To customize that email and customize what it says, you can go over to your settings into this automated email section. So this is where you can change it up, and that will be what your customer receives when they submit the inquiry, and also if you were to decline it. So those are a couple features. The other nice feature that I kind of explained a little bit was this date blocking. So let's say I know that I'm going to be away in May. So I'm going to block off, I'm going to actually, you know what, I don't want to take any orders in June. Let's block off all of June. June, I'm taking a month-long vacation. I'm going to make a little note of this. This note is just for me, not for my other customers. They won't see that. That's just on my end. So June, I took a whole month off. You can see June vacation. It popped up here. Now, if I go back to my form and I open it up, again, this is what my customers will see. If I look at the calendar section of it, we should see that June is completely blocked off. So they cannot submit an inquiry for those dates. If you want to get rid of that, let's say I change my mind and I do want to be able to take orders in June, I just tap the little X button right here, and then that will reopen those dates on my form. So that's a little bit about how the availability works. There's a bunch of other features. You also have the option to sign up for Sift Pro. Again, all of that information can be found in the tutorial videos that you can take a look at. I have them linked at the end of this, but I just wanted to kind of give you a general idea. So you'll notice you can have a ton of different, let's see, so this is all of my completed. You can see that they're all like from me because I did a ton of samples, but you'll end up having a list of all of your different orders that are coming up, and then you'll have the most, the soonest ones at the top all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so that's a little bit about Sift, but if you're thinking that you're more of a pen and paper type of person, I get you, because I am the same way. So I want to introduce you to my absolute favorite paper planner ever, and I use this thing like my husband actually makes fun of me for how much I love my planner. So as much as I do love my app, because of course I created it, I think it's great, I love this planner. So I kind of want to walk you through how you can use both to help you stay organized. So you could see that as all of those orders come into Sift, that is where all of the main communication, all of the order details, all of the nitty-gritty stuff is really in Sift. And then I personally use my paper planner to really just kind of keep me organized as far as dates, know what I have upcoming, and then really just my day-to-day plans. Like, what am I going to do? What do I have to get done? To-do lists, all that good stuff. So I have my planner here. This is my one from last year, but let me open up to a month so you can see what I do. So as soon as I get my orders, as they come into Sift and I accept them, then what I do is I will write them down in my planner. Let's see. This is going to be, I think, flipped for you. Yep. But you can see that I write them down in my planner. Now, the reason I love this planner is because I have my month view here. So I'll write down the customer's name and how many they need in the month view. And then I have these weekly pages. So this is like what I did on that Monday, on that Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I do my weekly plan here. So I write down when I'm going to bake, when I'm going to decorate, what errands I have to run, when I'm going to go to the store, all that kind of stuff. So again, every single month I'm able to clearly see a calendar of what I have going on, what orders I have, and then again I've got my weeks. So you could see here was the first week that I had, and that's just Monday through Sunday. And then let me open this all the way up so you can see. And so you constantly have these weeks that you can flip through. And again, this is flipped on your end, so you are looking at it backwards. And it's really nice because you have all of these to-do lists. You've got all of the space in the world for you to write whatever you would need to jot down, ideas, anything like that in the planner as well. So I really love this one because, again, you can, in one view, see your entire month along with your weekly view. So I have the vertical weekly calendar. I will link this at the end. I have a QR code so that if you want to scan it, you can see it's called the Laurel Denise Planner, though, and she's the best. And she also has really entertaining content. So if you look her up on Instagram, I would highly recommend using this planner. So again, what I do, I get my orders in Sift, and then I write them all down in my paper planner. So I do a little bit of both. But then when it comes down to planning out my sets and designing, I'll look in my planner to see what I have coming up and then jump into Sift, get all of those important details, write it down, and then make my cookie designs and then go from there. Let's jump back so that you can see here. Okay. So are you ready to find your flow? If so, we can get started. Here are QR codes for Android and Apple. Sift is, and this makes me sad to say, but it is only available in the United States for right now. It is my goal to get it to be available worldwide. I know there's so many people from Canada that are always asking me, and it makes me so sad to have to say no, it's not available in Canada yet, but it is my goal. It is something I'm working on making happen. But you can scan those QR codes, or you can just search in either of the app stores, in the Google Play or Apple App Store, for Sift, find your flow. And I know that I mentioned those video tutorials. So if you're interested in seeing how Sift works more, you can go to the Sift website, and in the How It Works tab, you'll see a tutorial center, and there's, I think, 5 or 6 videos that will kind of walk you through step by step how to get set up. So if you are a little nervous about technology, don't worry. That is like the step by step hand holding that I know I oftentimes need when I am doing something new. So I'll leave those up for just a second. And then if you are interested in the planner, you can scan this QR code. And also I do have a discount code, so if you want to, you can use Emily10 for 10% off. I'll post these slides at the end so that you can access them and that you have them for later if you would want them. So don't feel like you have to scan and get all of these links down. I'll post that for you. And then let's connect. So these are both of my Instagram handles. So Simply Sift is the Sift Instagram, but then Emily Retamozo is me. That's my cookies and my classes and all that good stuff. I also have an email list for Sift where I send out tips, any more tutorials, when there's new features, I send stuff out there about that. And then also we have a Facebook group for Sift users, and that is really just a place for you to ask questions. If you are having any issues, you can put it in there and I'll get back to you. You can also always send me an email, and that's actually, email is probably the quickest way that I'll get back to you, but I am very active on social media, so I'm always available and ready to answer any questions that you might have. But yeah, I would love to see you in the Facebook group or email list or just on Instagram, whatever works for you. Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. I'm gonna jump back to this page here in case you wanted to download the app, like I said, or you can just simply search for it and it'll pop right up. But thank you so much for coming to the live. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. And just don't forget, when you set those boundaries for yourself, stick to them. Don't be guilted into taking on more than what you really want to take on, because that's how we all get burnout, and we really don't want that. So thanks so much for joining, and I hope to do another one of these soon.